Now we'll deal with a multiplication operation with complex numbers. We have a lot of square root terms here, and the first thing we'll do is try to simplify all of our roots. We'll split this into 4 pieces and simplify them separately. We'll label each of our root terms a, b, c, and d. And for term a, we'll have square root of 18. Now 18 is divisible by one of our perfect squares, that's 9. 18 divided by 9 would give us 2. Therefore, we can split root 18 into square root 9 square root 2. However, square root 9 is an integer, that's 3. So we will replace term a with 3 square root 2. We'll now do the same thing for term b. Term b was square root of -4. Now we can split that up into a -1 and a +4. So we'll say root 4, root -1. We already know square root of 4 is just 2, and root -1 we represent with I, meaning term b will be imaginary. Term b is just 2i. Now we move on to term c. We have square root of 8 for term c, and 8 is divisible by one perfect square, that's 4, and 8 divided by 4 would give us 2. So we can split the 8 into square root 4, square root 2. But square root of 4 is just 2, so term c we can write as 2 square root 2. Then we move to term d. Term d says root -16. Now we can split that -16 off because it's negative. We can say root 16 times root -1. But root of 16 is 4, and square root of -1 is I. So now we have 4i for term d. Now that we know all 4 terms, we can replace those 4 terms. We'll move on to the next page to do that. Now that we have rewritten all of our roots in simplified forms here, we notice that we have 2 binomials multiplied together. And remember, when you have 2 binomials multiplied, you'll use the FOIL method. When you're multiplying complex numbers, there are 4 things that we need to check. We will be checking our coefficients, checking our roots, checking our signs, and checking our letters. We will begin by taking 3 root 2 times 2 root 2. First, we look to the signs and see that both of them are positive, so we can expect a positive answer. Then our coefficients are 3 times 2, and 3 times 2 gives us 6. Now we'll look to our roots. We'll have root 2 times another root 2, which gives us square root of 4. And neither of them have any letters. However, square root of 4 is the same as just saying 2, so what we really have is 6 times 2, or 12. This will be our term A. This will be our term A. Next, we will take 3 root 2 now times the last term. That's -4i. So we will say 3 root 2 times -4i. First, check the signs. We have a positive times a negative, so we can expect a negative answer. The coefficients are 3 and 4. That gives us 12 if we multiply. We do have a root of -2, and we also have the letter I, which we will place in front of the root 2. That will be our term B. That's -12i root 2. Next, we will take the 2i times each of the other 2 terms. So we will write 2i times 2 root 2. We look at the signs, and we notice both are positive, so we can expect a positive answer. We will have 2 times 2 for our coefficients, and 2 times 2 is 4. We have a root of root 2, and we have a letter of I. Therefore, our term C will be 4i root 2. Now our last terms will be 2i times negative 4i. We inspect the signs first and notice that we have a positive times a negative, so we can expect a negative answer here. Our coefficients are 2 times 4, which will be 8, and our letters will be I times I, which is I squared. Now we have one more step we have to look at because we have I squared, and I squared is a special case. We know that I is equal to root of negative 1. Therefore, I squared is the same as saying root negative 1 raised to the second power. However, the square root and the square will cancel out, meaning that I squared really just stands for negative 1. So this negative 8i squared is really negative 8 times negative 1. We've replaced the I squared with negative 1. And negative 8 times negative 1 will be positive 8, and that will be our term D. Now that we have all four terms lined up, let's go to the next page and try to combine them. Now that we have all four of the terms next to each other, let's try to combine the real terms. Our real terms that have no I are the 12 and the 8. Together, those will make our real part of the answer. We'll say 12 plus 8. And we'll note that that's the real part. The other two terms contain I, and so they will make the imaginary part. That's term B and C. We can combine the real terms, 12 plus 8, to make 20. Now for the imaginary part, we have to make sure that the roots match. Since both of them have square root 2 and both of them have I, it's okay to combine them. The coefficients are 4 and negative 12. We will say 4 minus 12 would give us negative 8. Therefore, the imaginary piece will be minus 8. We'll keep the same letter I and the same root 2. Therefore, our answer will be 20 minus 8i root 2, with the real part being the 20 and the imaginary part being the negative 8i root 2.